Thanks for joining us on Shannons Club TV, where we take a unique perspective on road and race car histories in Australia. If you're not yet a Shannons Club member, you can sign up free, no obligation, on the website, where you can also catch up on previous episodes.
Coming up, we'll bring you the latest market trends from the Shannons auctions team, plus an up-close look at our feature car with a proud owner. Right now though, the Japanese sedan and coupe range that put the R in respect for rotary power, the Mazda RX2.
In late 1975 or early 1976, the RX2 changed the way I thought about Japanese cars. My friend rocked up in a red Mazda Capella coupe with an RE badge. I didn't even know this was an RX2. I had just bought a nice yellow Fiat 125 sedan. Both cars were 1970 models. We staged a kind of race and the Mazda just disappeared. When it was introduced onto the Australian market in the spring of 1970, the RX2 set new standards for mid-sized cars in the $3,500 class. Where the R100 was roughly equal to an MGB on performance, the RX2 simply left it for dead. Likewise, any 186S powered Holden. The RX2 was quicker than the BMW 2002 and close to the V6 Capri, suggesting that the nominal 2.3 litres equivalence was more like a real-world 3. Mazda had an interesting policy of offering the same package with either a conventional piston engine or a rotary. The Capella RX2 followed the Mazda 1200 Coupe R100. It was a subtle way of slipping the radical Wankel engine into buyers' consciousness, or not. The 808 RX3, 929 RX4 and 121 RX5 would follow. Mark, do you think Mazda had motorsport in mind when it plumbed the 12A Wankel engine into the Capella?
Look, I think Mazda had motorsport in mind for all its rotary models, to be honest, because they found motorsport was the best way to prove the rotary engine's performance and reliability. It's interesting when you look at Mazda, they went full circle because they launched the rotary in the Cosmo sports car. Then they started putting it in a range of sedans and coupes so a lot more people could experience, the magic of rotary power. Then, of course, they came back to their sports car roots by putting it in the first RX7. So it went full circle and a lot of people got to taste rotary power.
Yes, yeah. It's very interesting, a very interesting element of automotive history, I think.
It really was.
Certainly was, yeah. Compared with the R100, the RX2 was faster, quieter, more spacious and better handling with its coil-sprung rear end with radius arms. Buyers could choose sedan or coupe bodies. The heart of the rotary engine Capella was the larger 12A engine with the equivalence of 2.3 litres. The exhaust port shape was altered to minimise exhaust noise. Wheels editor Peter Robinson rated the engine transmission package the smoothest and quietest he had experienced. The RX2 carried a price premium over the standard Capella 1.6 sedan of about 40%, and the car had at least 25% more power. Frankly, the piston engine Capella was uninspiring, but seemed even less impressive than it otherwise might have been in the shadow of its rotary sibling. Mark, it's a quirk of history that the RX2 arrived during the Australian muscle car era, but against the Datsun 1600 and not forgetting my yellow Fiat 125, it was a true mid-size hotshot.
Yeah, it sure was, yeah. And the best place for Mazda to prove that was at Mount Panorama, Bathurst. Mazda's R100 was the first rotary-powered sedan to compete in Bathurst's annual 500-mile race for production cars in 1969. But the Japanese manufacturer had to wait another 2 years for its historic first-class win with the RX2 in 1971. The RX2, or Capella RE as it was also known, in both sedan and coupe body styles, was larger than the R100 in all key dimensions, including wheelbase, width, length, and weight. However, it had superior handling with a more sophisticated coil spring live rear axle, and its larger 12A rotary engine had power to burn with a scintillating top speed on Conrod Straight of more than 190 kilometres per hour. Its retail price also put the RX2 on a collision course with Holden's 6-cylinder Tirana GTR and Ford's potent twin-cam Escort on the mountain in 1971. The new Mazdas set the pace on debut, claiming pole position in Class C before Gary Cook put in an outstanding solo drive in his 4-door RX2 to deliver Mazda's first Bathurst victory. John, that first Bathurst win, that really boosted the rotary engine's showroom appeal in Australia because it showed that the car was not only fast, but it was reliable.
Well, if it could do the job at Bathurst, it could get you to the shops and back.
Yeah.
I think that was probably the thinking.
Yeah, it was a good benchmark, wasn't it, Bathurst, in those days?
Yeah, however, unfortunately, they weren't all that reliable in ordinary road use, and people did have to, get new engines under warranty quite often, sometimes 2 or 3 times.
It's amazing that the rotary survived, and it's full credit to Mazda for pushing that program and making it succeed, because when you think of the disastrous NSU 80 program in the 60s here, and then Mazda had to come along and basically mop up, they had to start again.
Well, the RO80 was the world's best car, except that it didn't work. It would have been the world's best car, but you look at the way Mazda persisted with the rotary engine in those days, it perhaps gives you a bit of an idea why they're so successful now.
Yeah, it's full credit to them. The RX2s returned to Bathurst in 1972 under a new class structure which multiplied a car's retail price with its engine capacity measured in litres. Although widely misunderstood and only used once, the new system did result in groupings that were closer in outright performance terms than previous years, when classes were based purely on price. Even so, the 3 RX2s were seriously outnumbered by Escort twin cams. Although the Japanese cars again set the pace in qualifying and maintained their perfect Bathurst finishing record, the Escort's strength in numbers ensured a narrow victory. 1973 was the third and last time the RX2 would spearhead Mazda's mountain attack, this time under new Group C rules with classes based purely on engine capacity and limited modifications allowed to improve performance. The Tirana GTRs were outclassed this time, with the RX2s finishing first and second in the new 3-litre class after a thrilling battle. So the RX2 went out a 2-time Bathurst winner, having also delivered Mazda the unique accolade of the first rotary-powered victory in Australia's greatest motor race. Don't forget, you can find your favourite car club or event on the Shannons Club website.
My name's Ryan. I've owned this Mazda RX2 for a couple of years now. It is a 1971 RX2 Capella, so Series 1 that came out in Australia. I've had the car for approximately 2 years in its original form and done very minor sort of tweaks to it. We've got the car currently on display at a dealership in Melbourne, and I do like to put it out there so people can see the originality and what these cars were made of in the early 70s and how good they were built. My favourite feature of the car is the interior and the dash and how detailed it was for back in the 70s to have a tacho and items that most cars these days are only sort of getting as factory features now. So I reckon it was quite advanced for its time. The key specs of the car is it's a 12A from factory twin distributor points ignition with a 4-speed gearbox, which was out of the box a factory car. The drive is still very original, so it's quite bouncy. But it is very light, so you definitely feel just about anything on the road. It doesn't take much to bring out the performance or the driving experience, so it's quite good. It's just a good Sunday cruiser, so it's a great car to drive around, and it definitely gets a lot of notice when you're out on the road on a nice day. For the weight and the power of the car, they were a real pocket rocket of the time. It took nothing to get them going, so it was great. I am a Shannons customer. And I have been for the last 20 odd years with a string of cars that I've had, mainly the Mazda RX series. So yeah, been passionate about Shannons and how they look after the toys that I've had over the time. It's definitely been a great conjunction with me. Future plans for the car is to keep it in its original state, just to give it a rejuvenation in the paintwork in the next few years. It is in fairly good form, but I do like keeping things in their perfect order.
Shannons National Auctions Manager Chris Borobon is here to bring us up to date on the Mazda RX2 and Capella.
John Wright.
Welcome, mate. It's interesting, the RX2, where does it sit in the pecking order, as we say about Mazda rotaries? We know the R100's just gone off the scale.
Yep.
RX3s are really valuable, RX7's climbing up. Where does the RX2 sit in that whole mix of rotary Mazdas?
Yeah, look, again, you should probably start with the Cosmo, top of the pecking order, R100 very close by, RX3 coupes and sedans, and the RX2 follows that.
So the RX2 is still lesser value than RX3?
Lesser value than the RX3s, yes.
So why is that, do you think?
I think it's personal taste.
Because it's a really good looking car.
It's a good looking car. It had a better suspension and so on.
Well, isn't that interesting? Yeah, it had the independent rear suspension in the RX2s, and then they went back to the live axle in the.
I don't think it was fully independent, but it was a step that way.
A step that way. That's right.
It was a much better located thing. And is the coupe version more sought after than the four-door?
I think generally, you know, the coupe version, whether it's RX2 or RX3, is probably more desirable in the coupes. And we're seeing a lot more, you know, a lot more coming back on the market.
And what about the conventional piston-engined cars? Is there any interest? Have they got any flow on from the rotary flavour? Do people buy them and put rotary badges on them?
Well, I think they put rotary engines in them too.
They put rotary engines.
We've seen plenty of Capellas, you know, being converted with 12A or 13B motors in them. That's fairly popular conversion, and I think especially because the genuine RX2s are getting out of reach and also getting very scarce to find.
Well, that was my concern, because if it's so easy, because the Capella and the RX2 shared the same engine bay, how easy would it be for a crook to make a fake Capella RE or RX2? Because as the values of these cars just keep going up, the temptation must be there. It makes it harder for collectors.
That's right. The temptation's there, I think, and we've seen many of these cars, you know, with the transmate's been done where the rotary is put into the piston engine. But again, you know, then you need to go off the chassis numbers. The chassis numbers dictate whether it's a Capella or an RX2.
Sure.
So that's the telling factor. Yep.
Yeah.
Chris, we know the RX2s and particularly the coupes are going through the roof in terms of price. Are they also going to Japan, or are they staying in the country?
Look, we're not hearing much going to Japan in recent times. I think, you know, the whole Japanese scene has really taken off in the last few years. There's renewed interest in those cars, and I think, you know, people my age who, you know, we grew up with these cars, we're wanting to get back into these cars again. So I think we're seeing a renewed interest, and hence probably why the prices have gone north. So I think, you know, they're getting scarce to find, especially good original cars. But, you know, that's where it's acceptable to have the modifications done as well.
I guess a lot of them have been used and some of them destroyed in racing too, Chris.
Yeah, look, probably over the years that's happened a lot. I think the good thing today is we're still seeing a number of RX2s being used in the historic racing in Group N. So great to see, and
fantastic to see.
And these guys are getting great responses when they're out on the racetrack in those cars.
Thank you very much for joining us today,
No problem,
Chris.
Thanks,
and remember, you'll find all the latest auction results on the Shannons Club website. For your own lasting image of the Mazda RX2 in competition, visit the huge archive at autopix.com.au.
John, interesting reflecting on the RX2. We have touched on this program about the number of models that Mazda offered with shared engine bays, you know, going back to the R100, RX2, RX3, RX4, RX5. Where do you think the RX2 sits in that pecking order in terms of the most desirable?
Well, that'd be my choice. That'd be my choice. With more power, with a better located rear end, much better styling than the RX4, and probably also the RX5, which arrived in the middle of anti-pollution legislation and so on. I think it's the standout car.
It really was a step up. I mean, you look at the struggles the guys had with the R100 at Bathurst in 1969. They came back in 71, and that RX2, man, that blew them into the weeds. That was a completely different car.
It was a cracker, wasn't it?
Yeah, really good machine.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you've enjoyed reflecting on the exciting Mazda RX2, and we look forward to your company next time on Shannons Club TV. Bye for now.